Thank you all for coming out and joining us on a beautiful Texas morning. This MOU not only signals our collective commitment to expanding educational horizons for our students, it will also direct these institutions' combined expertise at many challenges, including disease, poverty, and pollution, just to name a few. We can achieve so much more when we work together, focusing on the common values that unite us instead of the differences that make us unique. His Highness the Aga Khan is a leader who bridges the gap between East and West, a visionary who offers a roadmap for peace, prosperity, and stability in uncertain times. We would be wise to follow his example.
I would also like to take this occasion to say how happy I am that the University of Texas and the Aga Khan University are working towards a joint program of collaboration in a number of fields. Those of you who have followed development in Asia and Africa for the past 50 years will know what a tragedy it has been that the leading universities of Africa and Asia have suffered a horrible fate through lack of resources, lack of research, lack of application of best practice standards. And these countries desperately need to retain the best brains, to educate the most talented youth, men and women. And if we don't do that, then the gulf between the industrialized states and the developing countries will simply become more and more difficult to manage and more tragic.
I would invite Dr. Powers and Dr. Rasool to take their place at the table, and we will have both of them sign this historic Memorandum of Understanding. Good evening to all of you. It's a great honor to be in the presence of the Imam of 16 million Muslims around the world. I witnessed another significant component of His Highness' global humanitarian vision a little more than 2 years ago in a visit to Pakistan. Standing in the shattered remains of an humble village, I watched the leadership of Focus, His Highness's global humanitarian organization, as they worked selflessly to help the impoverished people rebuild their lives after a devastating earthquake. This is but one example of the work that goes on around the world every day. It happens because 50 years ago, when he became the Imam, His Highness infused his community with a sense of purpose aimed at lifting people out of poverty and forging a better tomorrow. Because of that vision, universities have been built in remote mountainous regions of Central Asia. Because of that vision, young children in poor African countries like Zanzibar are getting an education, developing a sense of hope that once would have been drowned out by despair. Because of that vision, health care is now available to communities ravaged by AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis. Because of that vision, communities in Africa that have known nothing but war have had their buildings refurbished, their land restored, so that children and their parents have safe parks to enjoy. From Cairo to Kabul, from Toronto to Karachi, a vision of peace and prosperity has taken hold because of the persistence of this one man, His Highness the Aga Khan.
One of my purposes on this trip this week is to meet with the Ismaili community all across this country. But another purpose is to meet with civic and government leaders and to discuss ways in which the Ismaili Imamate, the institutions of our community, and the Aga Khan Development Network can partner with them even more effectively. We would like to build, for example, on the encouraging start we have made working with educational institutions here in Texas and elsewhere to span the cultural gap which too often has separated the Islamic world from the West. As you may know, I see this problem not as a clash of civilizations, but rather as a clash of ignorances on all sides. And ignorance is a condition that we can do much to remedy. Similarly, I believe that we can work together to encourage the development of sustainable democracies in parts of the world where democracy has not flourished, reflecting even more rigorously on the conditions which make democracy possible and helping democratic institutions adapt more effectively to local conditions. Thirdly, I believe we can partner effectively in applying the world's most advanced expertise to the challenges of development in parts of the world which are less advanced. The United States' position as a world leader, in my view, grows directly out of its accomplishments as a knowledge society. And this knowledge, rightly applied, can continue to be a resource of enormous global value. I thought it might be appropriate for me to say a few words at this point about the Ismaili community and my role as Imam. The Ismailis are a diverse community within the Shia branch of Islam, living in many parts of the world and encompassing numerous ethnic and linguistic traditions. Their diversity reflects the profound pluralism of the Muslim world. The diverse Ismaili community has been united over many centuries by an allegiance to the living hereditary Imam of the time. Let me also emphasize the inseparable nature within Islam of faith and world, the intertwining of spiritual responsibility with the conduct of daily life. My responsibilities as Imam for interpreting the faith are thus accompanied by a strong engagement with issues relating to the quality of life, affirming the dignity of all peoples. As many of you know, Ismaili institutions everywhere are anchored in the community's Jamaat Khanas, our places of congregation. Governor Perry has honored us by being present at the ceremonies in years past, when we have laid foundations and opened our Jamaat Khanas in Texas, both in Sugar Land and Plano. Most recently, the governor's encouragement has been instrumental in our decision to build the community's first high-profile Ismaili center in the United States and to situate in Houston. For this support, Governor, We are profoundly grateful. You have mentioned, Governor, your own visit to the Dubai Center, which I had the honor of opening officially last month. We are confident that the new Ismailia Center in Houston, like the center in Dubai, will not only enhance the physical fabric of the city, but will also serve as a tangible symbol of the values we share with our good neighbors here in Texas.
I think very fitting that the state of Texas would give to you, a great lover of horseflesh.
Your Highness, the community, Ismaili community, has been very strong in our city, especially in the Edgewater Community Center over many, many years, which has served the entire community. With your support of your foundation, has helped that organization in its important work to develop and promote creative solutions to problems that hold back social developments in many parts of the world.
We here in Illinois can learn from the things, Your Highness, that you've been devoting your life's work to, bringing people together, expanding access to health care, developing educational opportunities, investing in our children, and using the private sector in a way that is not only smart but practical. And the investments that the Aga Khan Development Network makes in places like Kenya, in places like Pakistan, and in places like Cairo, Egypt, where they turned a city dump into a park. These are investments that now are made in places where there may not even be Ismailis. And I have a personal investment that the Aga Khan Development Network made on a bridge in the former Yugoslavia that my father actually walked across right before World War II. It was destroyed during the Balkan Wars in the 90s, but the Aga Khan Development Network restored and developed that bridge, recognizing the importance of architecture and linking architecture to the cultures of the different people who live in all parts of our world. In the final analysis, if we're going to do what's right for people, in the final analysis, if we will continue to work and hopefully one day realize that we can make better and make more gentle the life of the world, there are so many lessons and so many things that we can learn from His Highness Prince Aga Khan and from the Ismaili community. Your Highness, we wish you all the best on your Golden Jubilee, and we are honored that you had a chance to come and visit us here in Illinois. Thank you.
And I want to thank the governor and the mayor for all the support that they have given to my community and to myself in building a happy and stable environment for the members of my community who have come from all over the world to the state of Illinois. And I'm immensely happy that there will soon be, inshallah, a Jamaat Khana at Glenview. It will be an important building, and its purpose is not only to be a place of congregation. Its purpose is to be a place of friendship, of outward friendship to all the communities who live in Illinois. And I would like to say that I come here humbly because I want to learn. I want to learn how you are addressing the problems of development, the problems of relationships between rural and urban communities, the problems of refocusing education, putting much more time into early childhood education, successfully ensuring for health care all the children of the state. These are things that in the developing world we dream of. But we cannot put them together all alone. We need to learn from the case studies that you have realized and achieved in the United States. Pluralism. Your pluralism is an example for us. There isn't a country in which we work, in Africa, Asia, Central Asia, in which the issue of pluralism is not one of the primary issues that we have to deal with. And it is an amazing task because it's a work that's never completed. The Global Knowledge Society is led by the United States, and therefore we're looking to partnerships, partnerships which are long, which are stable, and which produce quantifiable results.
The members of your community here have really done you proud in their assimilation into the community and the way they become wonderful, not only U.S. but Georgia citizens, and we're proud to have them. The Ismaili Muslim community's intense ethic of voluntary service improves the quality of life for all people, not just in their community, but the communities in which they live. They demonstrate generosity toward those of every faith and background, and they set an example for all of us to follow. The Aga Khan Development Network is an outstanding organization that builds bridges to modern times. Through it, this network has improved the lives of millions of people across the world, providing long-term solutions to poverty and to some of the deeper needs of mankind. We have some important priorities in common. We share an emphasis on education and an understanding of the power that comes along with knowledge. It's a shame to have information and not to use it for the betterment of our fellow citizens. From our K through 12, our earlier education to higher education, to workforce development, knowledge creates opportunity, and we welcome that opportunity here in our state of Georgia. I want to thank His Highness for bringing his message of hope and peace to Georgia. His work offers us an example of how people can come together across contemporary divides to help people lead better lives in a safer world.
Over the last 50 years, I've had the good fortune of having enormous support from the United States around the world and in the things we are doing. And one of the things which I think many Americans don't always know is exactly what support is being given to whom on what occasion. And I want to take this occasion to just give you a brief synopsis of the situation in one of the Central Asian republics from 1992 onwards. As you probably know, the Central Asian republics opted for independence They went through processes of independence which were more or less peaceful, but Tajikistan had a situation of civil war. The capital of Tajikistan, Dushanbe, is in the west of the country. The Ismaili community is concentrated in the east of the country. And there was no all-year-round road between Dushanbe and Korog, the capital of eastern Tajikistan. There were hundreds of thousands of people who were risking starvation. And I mean risking starvation in one of the coldest places in the world. And it was your government who brought us food into Kyrgyzstan. From Kyrgyzstan, we took the food south into eastern Tajikistan. And today, eastern Tajikistan is 98% food self-sufficient. Another area I would like to share with you is the area of the Knowledge Society. Georgia is making very, very serious, intelligent commitments to developing forces in the Knowledge Society. When we work in the developing world, we're trying to build new institutions. And our most difficult thing to achieve is to enter into that Knowledge Society. And entering into that knowledge society is a question of people. It's not only a question of money, it's institutions working with institutions. And I'm looking forward enormously, Governor, to building bridges with your best institutions in Georgia. I hope they will also learn from the work we are doing in Africa and Asia. But I know that you have always been enormously generous with your knowledge from the United States. And I, of course, was one of the beneficiaries.
Thank you so much.
While we celebrate our 40th anniversary, it is very important for the IB to encompass all cultures and be proud of its international name. While we strive to instill our programs with international mindedness and literacy, we are still seen as a very Western education system. I am so happy that at a stage when the IB reaches its full maturity, it is working together with the Aga Khan academies and will benefit from education resources of the universities, case study in development, and the cultural asset of the Aga Khan Development Network, allowing it to embrace a global and pluralistic humanism that can only contribute to a stronger influence of our ideals the world over. Through this partnership with the Aga Khan Development Network, we can see clearly the potential for this work to carry on the work of our founders and work in partnership to build a better future. As we build on the work of those who had vision, we, in turn, hope that our vision, our work, will lead to the understanding that other people, with their difference, can be right. Thank you.
The IB promotes cultural harmony instead of hegemony. We are asked not to subsume or even ignore our own identities, but to celebrate and share them. It is a program ambitious in its academic rigor, rich in its international identity, and broad in its choice of service and community activities. It provides students access to the very best of the Knowledge Society while reminding us that this Knowledge Society is neither the product nor the domain of a single culture or tradition.
I would like to combine my words of congratulation and commendation with some words of inquiry and challenge. What is the eventual place and purpose of the IB in developing societies and in a Muslim context? What can those worlds contribute to the IB community? And how can institutions which are rooted in different cultural traditions best work together to bridge worlds that have too often been widely separated? As a point of departure in addressing these questions, I would turn to those words from my grandfather, which were quoted in 2 earlier Peterson lectures. He included them in a speech he gave as President of the League of Nations in Geneva some 70 years ago. They come originally from the Persian poet Saadi, who wrote, "The children of Adam, created of the self-same clay, are members of one body. When one member suffers, all members suffer likewise. O thou, who art indifferent to the suffering of the fellow, thou art unworthy to be called a man." You will readily understand why such words seem appropriate for a Peterson lecture. They speak of the fundamental value of a universal human bond, a gift of the Creator, which both requires and validates our efforts to educate for global citizenship. I would also like to quote an infinitely more powerful statement about the unity of mankind, because it comes directly from the Holy Quran, and which I would ask you to think about. The Holy Quran addresses itself not only to Muslims, but to the entirety of the human race, when it says, "O mankind, be careful of your duty to your Lord, who created you from one single soul, and from it created its mate, and from them twain has spread abroad a multitude of men and women." These words reflect a deeply spiritual insight, a divine imperative, if you will, which in my view should undergird our educational commitments. It is because we see humankind, despite its differences, as children of God and born from one soul, that we insist on reaching beyond traditional boundaries as we deliberate, communicate, and educate internationally. The IB mission statement puts it extremely well: to encourage students across the world to become active, compassionate, and lifelong learners who understand that other people, with their differences, can also be right. And why would homogenization be such a danger? Because diversity and variety constitute one of the most beautiful gifts of the Creator. And because a deep commitment to our own particularity is part of what it means to be human. Yes, we need to establish connecting bonds across cultures, but each culture must also honor a special sense of self. The downside of globalization is the threat it can present to cultural identities. But there is also a second challenge, which is intensifying in our world. In some ways, it is the exact opposite of the globalizing impulse. I refer to the growing tendency toward fragmentation and confrontation among peoples. In a time of mounting insecurity, cultural pride can turn too often into an endeavor to normatize one's culture. The quest for identity can then become an exclusionary process, so that we define ourselves less by what we are for and more by what we are against. When this happens, diversity turns quickly from a source of beauty to a cause of discord. As you may know, the developing world has been at the center of my thinking and my work throughout my lifetime. And I inherited a tradition of educational commitment from my grandfather. It was a century ago that he began to build a network of some 300 schools in the developing world, the Aga Khan Education Services, in addition to founding Aligarh University in India. The legacy which I'm describing actually goes back more than 1,000 years, to the time when our forefathers, the Fatimid Imam Caliphs of Egypt, founded Al-Azhar University and the Academy of Knowledge in Cairo. For many centuries, a commitment to learning was a central element of far-flung Islamic cultures. This commitment has continued through my imamate to the founding of the Aga Khan University and the University of Central Asia, and through the recent establishment of a new Aga Khan Academies program. And this is where your and our paths meet. In a world of rapid change, an agile and adaptable mind, a pragmatic and cooperative temperament, a strong ethical orientation, these are increasingly the keys to effective leadership. And I would add to this list the capacity for intellectual humility, which keeps one's mind constantly open to a variety of viewpoints and which welcomes pluralistic exchange. These capacities over the long term will be critically important to the developing world. They happen to be the same capacities which programs like the IB and the Aga Khan Academies are designed to elicit and inspire. The academies have a dual mission: to provide an outstanding education to exceptional students from diverse backgrounds, and to provide world-class training for a growing core of inspiring teachers. At these 18 academies, each educating between 750 and 1,200 primary and secondary students, we are anticipating having one teacher for every 7 students. And we will place enormous emphasis on recruiting, training, and compensating them well. We hope they will become effective role models for other teachers in their regions. And as we move into that future, we would like to collaborate with the International Baccalaureate movement in a challenging but inspiring new educational adventure. Together, we can help reshape the very definition of a well-educated global citizen. And we can begin that process by bridging the learning gap, which lies at the heart of what some have called a clash of civilizations, but which I have always felt was rather a clash of ignorances. In the years ahead, should we not expect a student at an IB school in Atlanta to know as much about Jomo Kenyatta or Muhammad Ali Jinnah as a student in Mombasa or Lahore knows about Atlanta's great son, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.? Should a Bangladeshi IB student reading the poems of Tagore at the Aga Khan Academy in Dhaka not also encounter the works of other Nobel laureates in literature, such as the Turkish novelist Orhan Pamuk, or America's William Faulkner, or Toni Morrison? Should the study of medieval architecture not include both the Chartres Cathedral in France and the Mosque of Djenné in Mali? And shouldn't IB science students not learn about Ibn al-Haytham, the Muslim scholar who developed modern optics, as well as his predecessors Euclid and Ptolemy, whose ideas he challenged. As we work together to bridge the gulf between East and West, between North and South, between developed and developing economies, between urban and rural settings, we will be redefining what it means to be well educated. Balancing the universal and the particular is an age-old challenge, intellectually and practically. But it may well become an even more difficult challenge as time moves on and the planet continues to shrink. It is one thing, after all, to talk about cultural understanding when the other is living across the world. It is often a different matter when the other is living across the street. In the final analysis, the great problem of humankind in a global age will be to balance and reconcile the two impulses of which I have spoken: the quest for distinctive identity and the search for global coherence. Thank you.
يمين الله أحبك حب ما له حدود وخلق الله ونجم الليل علي يشهد عددنا بالسما نجمان عددنا بالرياض
During this visit, Hazrat Imam has blessed us with further guidance, opened new doors for us, and inshallah will set the course for the next 25 years. Seated in front of Hazrat Imam tonight is the next generation of leaders, young, educated, and grounded in the tradition of service, that inshallah will serve the Jamaat as Hazrat Imam would wish it to be served, with competence, with compassion, and humility. More than 10,000 volunteers, whom more than 50% are youth, were engaged in the preparation for this visit, as well as the 2 international programs that have toured the USA so far during this Golden Jubilee year. These programs and this visit offered us the opportunity to educate and enlighten many civic leaders, intelligentsia, and Jamaati friends, lifting a little bit the cloak of ignorance and opening new avenues of thought about the Islamic world that previously did not exist. We hope, with Hazrat Imam's guidance, to build on these foundations so that, inshallah, during the Diamond Jubilee, if not much sooner, Hazrat Imam may see the fruits of his guidance. To mark this very special occasion of the Golden Jubilee Jamaati Institutional Dinner, Hazrat Imam, we seek permission to submit, I think, a small memento. It is a hologram of a lamp, and within the lamp is the source of light, which is in the shape of a rope. And on the rope are written the names of the Imam, from Hazrat Ali on the bottom left to Hazrat Imam on the top left. And at the top, in the shape of a flame, are the words, in the 50th year of his Imamat, 2008-1428. And floating about 2 feet in front of the plane of the hologram is the Surah Nur. A hologram has rather unique features. If you were to take that holographic plate and shatter it, and pick up a piece and illuminate it from the light from which it was created, you would see the whole image. Not a fragment or a part, but the whole message. And for the message to be seen, it has to be illuminated from the light from which it was originally created. Otherwise, as you saw earlier this evening, you see a blank plate. The holographic universe, and those that now aspire to the holographic theory, suggest that the human brain is a hologram. It contains all of the information of the original from which it was created. But that information can only be seen if illuminated by the light from which it was originally created.
During this evening, I have been asking myself how I could organize my life to have another Jubilee tomorrow. All through this visit, I have been spoilt many times in many ways, but spoilt particularly by the wonderful success of my Jamaat in North America and in the United States. I have always thought that Jamaat in this country would play a very special role in the future of the Jamaat worldwide, because this country is the leader in the knowledge society. I think that there probably isn't an area of human endeavor in which we do not have today a murid who is exceptional in his own or her own field. And when I make the appointments to the Jamaati positions, I ask myself, how many more wonderful murids, young people getting wonderful education, will come forward and be able to serve the Jamaat? And I wanted to say, particularly this evening, my immense gratitude for the generosity, the material generosity, and the time and knowledge that the Jamaat has pledged to the future of our global Jamaat. There is nothing more important than sharing knowledge. And I have worked for many years now to try to ensure that the countries where the Jamaat lives, wherever they live, are countries of opportunity, countries of hope, countries of stability. And I will be looking to my Jamaat in the United States to help build opportunity for these Jamaats in other countries where there is opportunity. Make no mistake, there is opportunity. And I did not have an opportunity to express my enormous gratitude to the young men and women who put up such a wonderful entertainment performance this evening. For me, this joy is enormous, enormous, because I'm so happy when I see various traditions in the Jamaat from various parts of the world, and indeed new creation coming forward, and in which we can all participate and enjoy what we see. So I'd like to congratulate all the artists for the wonderful work that they have done, and I understand that they have come from all over the United States. So the harmonization of their presentations was absolutely wonderful. I congratulate them and I thank them. Oh, here you are. I wanted to congratulate you and to thank you for a wonderful representation.
मैं नहीं